These are officially the best barbecue ribs you'll ever have. The first step is to remove the membrane from our ribs. These are pork ribs, but any rack of ribs you get is going to have this thin papery membrane right here. The way to remove it is to first use a knife to give yourself a handle on the end here, and once you feel like you have enough, grab some kind of towel to use as a grip and rip it all the way off. Some come off cleaner than others, and if there's a little bit left, just make sure to get that too. If you skip this step, which I'm ashamed to say I missed it so many times cooking for my family as a kid because I just didn't know, it'll almost be like you're biting through a thin sheet of plastic every time you take a bite. In case you couldn't see, let me show you that peeling of the membrane one more time on another rack. Now that this is gone, you can see there's also some of that membrane up here as well, and we want to get rid of as much as possible. Although these parts can be a little bit trickier to remove, so as long as you get that one big piece at the start, you're already most of the way there. Once your ribs are nice and clean, it's time for the marinade. The rub I'm about to show you is a barbecue competition-worthy rub, meaning it's really, really good. Into a bowl, we'll combine salt, brown sugar, smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, chili powder, and cayenne pepper. Give this a quick whisk. Then we're going to paint our ribs all over with mustard. The job of the mustard here isn't flavor, and you won't actually really even taste it. Instead, just like when it's used in a beef Wellington, it's acting as a binder for our dry rub. But if you really don't like mustard and really don't want to use it, you can jump straight to the next step and your ribs will still be totally fine. Once covered, sprinkle them fully and evenly with the rub, pressing it in to make sure it sticks. Just like when seasoning a steak, make sure to cover everything, even all the sides. The smell of the rub is especially good because of that brown sugar in there, which is going to caramelize when this goes into the oven and give us the most beautiful bark possible. We haven't even done anything yet, and this already looks and smells so good. Once we're at this step, we have two options. The first is to leave this for 1 hour at room temperature before baking. That's if you're in a rush. The second is to leave this unwrapped overnight in the fridge, where it'll develop all kinds of amazing flavor. After their overnight rest, our ribs have dried out to develop this really nice tacky skin on the outside, which is going to give us that really nice crust after baking. Once it comes to room temperature, this is going to go into the oven at 275 Fahrenheit, where it's going to bake low and slow. We bake it low so all that tough connective tissue melts down into juicy, tender meat. You can't rush this step. After 3 hours in the oven, our ribs already look good enough to eat, but we're not done yet. First, listen. Already, we're starting to develop this beautiful bark, and when the ribs are done, we want that perfect balance, just like a steak, of crispy crust and chewy interior. But right now, we have this great bark, but we want it softer and juicier on the inside, so we do that by wrapping it up in foil. Lay a few sheets out on your work surface, then carefully transfer your ribs to the center. Fold the edges of the aluminum to create sort of a boat that'll hold the liquids and anything else we're about to add, and add on a few tablespoons of butter, a bit of brown sugar, a splash of apple cider vinegar, as well as some apple juice. Fold and shape that foil into a dome shape, which will allow all that steam to move around the ribs and get them soft and juicy and tender as they bake again. Now back on the tray, and we'll bake these again at the same temperature for another hour and a half. And just like that, I'm back. When I cut this open now, you'll see that all that stuff we added earlier has melted down, and the whole time has been softening that meat. All that butter, that brown sugar, that apple juice, they melted down together into this sauce. And in that warm oven, it turned into steam and traveled through every nook and cranny of our ribs. Stick with me here, we're almost done, but while this cools down, we're gonna move on over to make our sauce, also known as the best barbecue sauce you'll ever have. Into a pot, we'll combine ketchup, chicken stock, brown sugar, molasses, apple cider vinegar, Worcestershire sauce, yellow mustard, smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, kosher salt, chili powder, cayenne pepper, and a bay leaf. Now bring the heat to medium and give it a stir, then cook for 20 to 30 minutes or until it becomes nice and thick. But our sauce is still missing the best part. I'm gonna come back to my cooled off ribs, then flip these meat side down onto my wire rack lined baking sheet, because what I'm after is this liquid gold right here. Carefully grab that foil with all that cooking liquid there and move it over, don't spill it, to my barbecue sauce and pour it directly in. That is the finishing touch that takes the barbecue sauce from a home cook to a pro chef. All that's left now is to thicken our sauce once more. Mine's still just a bit too thin, so I'll give it a few more seconds. Once our sauce is at the perfect consistency, we can go ahead and paint it across our ribs. All we need right now is a light coating. Don't go too crazy here, because we'll add a second round later. Once you've gotten the first side, give it a flip and do the same thing again, also making sure to get down and cover the sides. Whew. We're almost there, and they look good. This goes back into the oven for the very last time at 425 Fahrenheit for about 10 minutes. And if you want to play around with broiling it for a few minutes to mimic that char you get on a grill, you can do that too. When they're finally finished with their last cook, there's one more optional step you can do. But first, I need to make sure I got my crust. Sure do. And that is covering it with one more splash of our homemade barbecue sauce. The reason I like doing that is because the sauce we just added will taste different than the sauce that just baked in the oven, and those flavors really balance each other out. And still, we should be able to hear that crust through the sauce. Listen. The best way to cut your ribs is to flip them bone side up on a work surface, and then you can slice straight down cleanly through every single one of the ribs without having to guess. Technically, all the barbecue experts say that fall off the bone ribs mean they're overcooked. So what I've gone for are these ribs that'll hold on the bone when you shake them like this, but you can easily pull straight off. And that is the perfect balance that won't make anyone mad. I guess all that's left is for us to try one. Oh my gosh, listen to me carefully here. I've been to Texas at 4:30 in the morning making barbecue with one of the best pitmasters in the world, and in that moment, I thought those were the best ribs I've ever had, but I'm totally serious, these are even better. How about that knife throw, huh? That's my outro.